Hello and welcome to Profiles in Risk. This is your host, Tony Cañas, and I have a special episode today with Sarah Muniz. And actually, I don't remember if I've asked you how to say your last name. Did I get it right, Muniz, or is it Muniz? Muniz?
I'm not quite sure. It's my husband's name.
Oh,
It's
okay.
well, it's my married name.
Oh,
So
okay.
he taught me by saying my knees and then Muniz.
Muniz. Okay.
Like my knees, but then people just start calling me my knees.
Okay, that's fair. Cool. Okay, perfect. So Sarah is a longtime insurance agent, and we connected a few years ago. And I can't remember how we originally connected, but I know that we had a conversation going for a good while, and eventually you called me and basically said, "Hey, I want to write a book about women in insurance. Will you guys publish it?" And my answer immediately was yes. I think this is a super important topic, and yes, we will absolutely publish it. And this was before the pandemic. This was a good, I don't know, 3 to 4 years ago. That you started this process, and then but it took a while to get everything in place. You had changes on your side, and finally, end of last year, it kind of brought it together. So Sarah, why write a book about women in insurance? What motivated this?
So many things. So I had a conversation with a friend of mine, and we've actually become really good friends throughout the last few years. We were kind of acquaintance friends, like just getting to know each other. And she's the kind of person that she's like, "Hey, tell me your story. How'd you fall into insurance? How has it been for you the last 20 years? And so I told her my story. And her response was, "Wow, you have a really interesting story. You should write a book." And of course, my response is, no one would read my book. Like, why would I write a book? Yeah. I was like, plus I can't. And she's like, "Well, why can't you?" And basically I told her because one of the employers I worked with told me if I ever shared what happened in his office, he would have me blacklisted in the industry, and I would never be able to find a job again. That's my response to her. And her response was, "Who is this guy? Why does he have so much control over you? And who does he know? Like, is he huge in the insurance industry? Who does he know that he could have you blacklisted?" And she was upset with him, not with me. And I basically I sat with that, and I was like, well, I mean, he's just a small agency owner, but he's a man, and usually other men listen to men. And if he's telling people that I'm unemployable, then I won't be able to find a job. But then after we hung up the phone, it sat with me, and it just bothered me the entire evening. I couldn't sleep. I was tossing and turning because they never tell you when you take a leap of faith about the falling flat on the ground. Everyone's like, take your leap of faith. Everything's going to be great. Take a new opportunity. What's the worst that can happen? They don't tell you that you fall on your face and break your nose, which is essentially how he made me feel. He broke my confidence, this person. And I just thought, you know what? I'm not going to allow him and his breaking me to keep me broken. And if I can share my story and it can impact and help other women, then I'm going to do it and hope for the best, essentially. That was when I sent you the message that morning and was like, "Hey, I got this idea for a book." And essentially it led me to you. There are so many times when women are, told to be quiet in a meeting, told that their opinions don't matter, told that, you're just here to take notes. I've been in many of those situations, and there's a lot of times where you can't you literally can't speak up without repercussions, without getting in trouble. And so I wanted to write this book for all these women that we all share our stories with each other, but we're not able to share them with the world. And I wanted to shed light that the problem is still happening. I started this journey in 2019, and I actually added things along the way from 2020. So I've had quite a few years, and I think that the journey was perfect in 2020 because it was a really tough year. I had a couple different employers, and the employers gave me good news stories to share. I also wanted to be able to help other women share their stories and give different perspectives from different parts of the industry. And so I was able to connect with several other women, different age groups, different parts of the insurance industry, and see what their stories were. And some of them were similar to my stories, a lot of them, but some of them were, I had a very supportive system in place, and I was able to excel. And so I have success stories sharing this is what could happen if the right systems are in place. And then I have the falling on your face stories like mine, or the I'm hitting glass ceilings and I can't figure out why. Or with me, I had a lot of people tell me it was me. It wasn't like, they're like, oh, you keep having this problem with several employers. It's not the employer, it's you. You're the common denominator. You're the problem. And it was kind of like frustrating until I talked to other women. They're like, oh no, that happens to me too. So you feel alone until you're talking to other people. And then sometimes people will be like, oh, that's just an isolated event. It's just you and those 2 or 3 people. So I wanted to shed light on it's not isolated. It's not just me. It's not just, a small percentage of women facing these challenges. It's the majority, honestly. And then I think it's harder for another gender to really put them, like really put the other person's shoes on. Like it's hard for a man to wear my shoes. It's hard for me to even wear their shoes. So, and it's hard to like see past what you know. So that was the other thing is I want to shed light in a respectful, honest way to hopefully, open up the door of opportunities. And I'm hoping that things start changing for the better. And maybe by the time my daughter graduates college, because she was part 2 of my motivation. I want to do what I can to change the world for the better. So that we don't have a lack of talent. Instead, we have all this talent that's already here that we can just foster and then attract. The next generation will see that and they'll be like, oh my gosh, I want to work in the insurance industry. It's really cool. Which me and you know that no one says the insurance industry is cool.
And
let's change that.
It's a great career. Absolutely great career. We're awful at recruiting for it. Okay. And when you first reached out, so our insurance journeys have been very, very different, right? I'm a guy, although not a white guy, like a Latino guy, and my career has been entirely on the carrier side. So by the time I started my career, 2009, in very well-run carriers in the Midwest, and generally carriers are much larger companies than agencies, especially local agencies, right? So I started Farm Bureau, which had a couple thousand of employees. It's a small carrier, and then I went to Nationwide that had, I don't know, 30,000 employees at the time, or a very large carrier. So my experience in those places was generally very good, and those places have massive HR teams that do a rather good job. They still have in the overall industry, including the carrier side, we still have right, not quite equal representations, and the higher up you go in the leadership, that's very visibly true, right? At many places, the head of HR is a woman, but every other C-level person is male, or something close to that, right? And so that part I was aware of, but when I first heard parts of your story, it's mind blowing. It's hard to believe, right? It's and I struggled with yes, if this happens, we definitely need to shine a light on it. We definitely need to improve it. And I can see how it could happen, because we are a very conservative industry, a very old-fashioned industry, and on the agency side, there are many small agencies that have been around for a long time. So they're small businesses that don't have an HR department, right? And especially a small agency in more conservative parts of the country, like Texas, where you've had your career. Yeah, I can definitely imagine that it still feels like the 70s, right? Even though it's the early 2000s, or now, the 2020s. And then while you were working on the book, I listened to Meg McKean's podcast, specifically about women in insurance, and heard other people's stories. And I encourage you to go out and find other people's stories, because I thought that it would be you very early on, you told me the idea of the book is that not only women will see that they're not alone, that this happens to other women, and that they're not, a complete outlier for this is not their fault, right? And understanding that you're not alone helps you understand that it's not your fault, that it's the system that has problems, and number two, that you wanted the book to be good enough that some of the men would have their eyes opened to what it's like on the other side, right? And so I thought, I worried originally, if we only go with your story, then like it can too easily be swept under the rug as oh, like this one person had really bad luck, like you said, the common denominator is Sarah, so maybe it was just her, but if we can get other people's stories, then it makes it more clear that it is a systematic problem, and I thought that what we would end up with was a bunch of negative stories, but that proved the point that that the problem is bigger than just Texas, or bigger than just Sarah. So I like that you ended up with both positive and negative stories, because, like you said, yeah, the positive stories create a contrast to how, and to be honest, like we shouldn't have to prove that women can succeed in insurance. But I'm glad that we are showing that women can succeed in insurance, right? Like it's 2022. Come on, people! Like women are succeeding in every other industry. Of course, some of them are succeeding here in insurance. Of course, like they can. But I'm glad that we are shedding a light on, or rather that you are. Like I'll be honest, I had very little to do. After the first few months, I handed it over to my insurance nurse partner Carly, and we got Taryn involved on the editing piece, and the three of you and all the other people that collaborated with by being interviewed and allowing their stories to be shared, created this thing. Like so I do think that it opens a conversation that Meg's been opening in her podcast, and other sources that have focused on women in insurance. I do think it's a very important conversation.
Absolutely.
And I hope that it's the beginning of that conversation. And I hope that your book can be part of that process. So now we're recording, I think a week after it officially went live. what has it been like since it went live?
It's been really exciting because, as you know, and I did not know until I started the process that writing a book, it's not really the writing part that takes so long. It's the editing and getting everything the way it needs to be. I think I've rewritten the book about 10 or 15 times. I have 10 or 15 different versions. Taryn is absolutely amazing, the editor that you guys put me with, because she really, me and her were just able to see eye to eye, and she's really was able to challenge me. And, you know, there's a couple times where I'm like, I would put 1 or 2 sentences in about a subject, and she's like, either you got to take the 2 sentences out or you got to write a chapter because it's bigger than 2 sentences. And so we added more chapters, and just she's just been amazing, and she's had some similar experiences as well to where she could relate. And it's been really great to work with her. But so far, the rallying and the excitement around the book has been, the excitement started with me. I was just super excited when he told me it went live. So I kind of went nuts telling everyone about it. But the people that are reaching out to me from LinkedIn, and a lot of people that I haven't ever talked with before, they're just like, oh my gosh, like, you have no idea how many times I wanted to write something like this. I just wasn't sure if I could, or I wasn't sure if anyone would read it. And I'm so glad someone's doing it. And you don't know how much this means to me.
And I think this is a great time to plug Ensure Equality.
Yes.
Elisa's
Alyssa,
what's her Stamp's effort, Ensure Equality, that just started last year, and she is, as one of the different things that they're doing is collecting people's stories. So
yes.
Hey, listeners, if you read the book and that's exactly how you feel, I didn't know I could tell my story. Thank you, Sarah, for opening the door to telling my story. Yes, message Sarah. Let her know that, and then submit your story to Ensure Equality. I think that's where we can really make the most out of those people that now feel a little more free to tell their story. So I think that's fantastic that people are reaching out to say that. And again, it's a problem that is rather invisible to those of us who haven't lived it, and especially those of us who are men. It's because we've never had the kind of, and it seems unbelievable, right? So it's much easier to realize that the problem exists when it's multiple people from different sides of the industry, from different geographic locations, that have had experiences that maybe are not the exact same, but that definitely rhyme with each other, and that we just don't ever face, and experiences like that tend to happen in small rooms. What I mean by that is the agent that threatened you with being blacklisted from the industry, right? He probably wouldn't say that in front of a crowd. So yes, it's very easy to feel that this only happens to me, right? And that I must be doing something. So it's easy to feel that this happens to me, and it's not a common problem, right? Because they tend to happen behind closed doors. So anything we can do to shine a light on issues like that only helps the industry get to a better place, where we're a better place to work for all. And especially, like, our industry has such a weird setup where half of the industry works in small local companies, with no HR department, or very small, very old-fashioned HR departments. And it's harder
absolutely
to prevent
Yeah,
those issues.
it is. Yeah. And I recently actually worked in a large, like I thought that part of the problem was the smaller agencies for me. And then I worked in some larger ones and the problem was actually worse. I don't know if it's Texas or not, but the problem was worse in the larger
I,
agency.
you know,
It was rough.
I I tend to think that yes, Texas is part of it, and it's not just Texas. I'm imagining that I'm guessing that the same thing would happen in Wyoming and Idaho and right in areas of the country that are less
More
progressive
southern. Mm-hmm.
when it comes to employment, when it comes to women in the industry, right? Right,
Yeah.
the same areas where when surveyed, a higher percentage of people feel that women belong at home watching the kids and shouldn't be working, right? Like logic leads me to believe that in those places this kind of stuff happens a lot more often. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I actually talked to, and I was surprised because I thought, even when I was first starting the journey, I was like, surely it's not just happening in Texas, but maybe I'm just in the wrong area. But then I started I met a few people that are in other states, more northern states, and they also had similar stories. Maybe not exactly similar to mine, but stuff where it was more like they were told to act like a man in order to move up, or they were told don't have kids that will slow down your career.
Interesting. So let me see if I understand correctly. So you found the type of challenges they faced was different. While in the South, you were seeing complete rejection of advancement because of being a woman. In the North, they were more openly being told to behave like a man in order to advance.
I didn't even think about it that way, but I think you're onto something because I think that's true.
That's very
Because the few people I did talk to up there, that was kind of like the feedback they were getting, like, don't mess up your career by having kids. It's gonna slow you down. And I even fell under that. I had kids young. I got married young.
And this book is not an academic book, right? So we're not saying that like we did some research and found that it's more common to happen that way geographically, just anecdotally. But one thing that there is clear research on is the motherhood penalty. So
Yes.
a significant part of the pay gap between men and women, it seems to be, according to more academic research, a motherhood penalty. It's
Yep.
mothers who especially the mothers that step out of the workforce for a few years are the ones that really have a hard, like really their salary gets held back significantly compared to their male counterparts, and even compared to the women that don't have kids. So it appears to be a motherhood penalty, like is a big part of it. So you're seeing that reflected in
Oh yeah, I'm seeing that all over. Like, it doesn't matter what woman I talk to. And a lot of them, like I fell under the trap of feeling very jealous of people who didn't have kids, because I was seeing them travel the world and have huge careers and doing all the things that I've wanted to do in my career and move up more progressively. But they also didn't get married at 21. They also didn't have kids at 26. Maybe they started having kids at 40. And so they were able to get their career off and really, going well. And then they could have kids, and it didn't really block them as much as a girl. Let's face it, a 21-year-old's a girl. I was a girl that started in the insurance industry and didn't know what I was doing. And trying to figure it out and get it and married young and having kids young. It's going to be a slower process for me, but it didn't have to be. I didn't feel like I had the motivation, I had the drive. And really just taking 6 weeks, like even just women who take just their maternity leave off, the 6 weeks or the 12 weeks, even there, usually just getting pregnant penalizes you. Or, a lot of times women are the caretakers in the family. They're the ones they're expected, like if a family member gets sick, you're going to go and take care of your mom. But a lot of times, for whatever reason, men aren't expected to do that, or even a lot of times companies don't allow them to. But kind of like, I don't know, like it's just the way the genders are seen, where, okay, you're a woman, so you're going to go take care of people, but then we can't pay you what you deserve because you may take off to take care of someone. Or maybe you're not even planning on getting pregnant. Maybe you're just of the age that could get pregnant. So they're like, let's just keep an eye on this one before we really see if we want to help them move forward. Because what if they want to have a baby? It's going to take away from what they're doing to us or doing for us. And men actually, like on my research, it's the exact opposite. When they don't have a baby. I'll correct that. Women have the babies, but when men, their spouses or their significant others are having babies, a lot of times I'll be like, hey, I bet you need more money. I bet you need to help provide for your family. Like it's almost it's a pat on the back.
The perception, the perception,
yes.
The traditional perception in the business community is definitely the married man with kids is more mature, and because of those financial pressures, is going to be a more reliable worker, right? Is going to be willing to travel or to put in the extra hours or whatever because they have to, and the perception is that once they have kids with women, it's the opposite, right? That they're pulled away from work. And I mean, we saw it clearly during the pandemic, where a lot more professional women left the employment world than men, right? With the added burden of kids being at home from school, or I've read 10,000 articles about how even the back and forth where the kids are back in school in person, but when there's an exposure, the school shuts down for 2 or 3 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
And they're home, and that yo-yo effect, somebody has to, right? Even if you're lucky enough that both parents are white collar workers working from home, somebody has to be minding the kids, and that burden fell on women more than it fell on men. And like it's well documented, right? Like we're not trying to prove that in your book, but
oh no, yeah,
like it's been clearly seen in the last couple of years, and yeah. So yeah, what you're saying is to have absolutely being like happening out there and being well documented by the media and by the actually academic studies, and it's not good for the economy. It's not good for the overall economy to have half of the workforce be significantly penalized. The other thing you made me think of is paternity leave, right? In our industry, in most companies, paternity leave, if it exists, is not the same as maternity leave, and I looking at some of the European countries that have much stronger protections for parents, there's a tendency to have paternity leave be equally long to maternity leave, or there's other ways to encourage men to take their paternity leave. And what they have found, the reasoning behind it is that if if men end up taking the same amount of time as women, they're more likely to get used to doing their fair share, right? They're more likely to get used to not assume that their partners are the ones that are the main caretakers of the kids, right?
Right.
So it creates a better environment for women to be able to more fully participate in the workforce. We're a little behind in the States compared to that.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it makes sense. It absolutely makes sense. So in the book, do you propose solutions for the issue, or basically just shining a light and saying we're missing out on a significant amount of great talent, and look at how the companies that have done it well have ended up with great female leaders?
So I wanted to approach it, and I ended up approaching it with the let's show the problem, but let's show the solution. And it progressively, the book kind of, I feel like you have to see that there's a problem, that there is a gap somewhere and it's a real issue, and then see the reasons why, like what's happened, not just in our industry, it's really honestly society, some of the problems too.
Oh yeah. Our industry is
And
a little more conservative than most.
but ours is every industry is behind on female and male equality and race and ethnic, and like every industry is behind where they should be. We're just further behind. We're further behind the other industries, with them getting to a more even playing field. And so I wanted to kind of, the problem that I kept hearing at like conference after conference after conference, because there was a year that I was going to bunches of conferences, and a lot of them were InsurTech conferences, and a lot of them were about a solution for the lack of talent in our industry. Like, how do we solve this problem? Do we get virtual assistants? Do we outsource from other places? Like, how are people going to retire when we don't have enough industry? I mean, you're in the talent attracting business too. And I just kept thinking, well, gosh, like I know so many talented women in our industry that are stuck as CSRs, like they can't move past that, or they're stuck as some kind of like support staff, or maybe they're like me, where they're really good at sales, but they can't ever get past that sales level. So they hit that wall, but maybe they want more. That, it just, so I was seeing that, I was like, well, there's so many women that if they moved up, then they could pull up the next generation of women. And if the guys were willing to mentor and be allies and really see that this benefits them, this benefits their bottom line, well, then you don't have to go out for a search for talent. Your talent is there, like you have it there. So my approach was, let's show the problem. Let's show what the problem has created, which is the lack of talent that has been perceived. Let me show you how to find that talent, and then how to foster it and give that talent what they need in order to succeed, so that you can have a thriving company and our industry can thrive and really be seen as a progressive type industry instead of the reverse. And I know that takes time. I know it's not something that happens overnight, but I feel like one agency owner that reads the book and the book speaks to them somehow, and they think, I didn't realize that these barriers were there. Maybe I can just remove a few, or maybe I see this in a different way. I can actually talk to the women in my office without not thinking their opinions matter. Like, I think that it's not, some of it's on purpose, but I think some of it's not on purpose. I think some of it is unawareness.
Yes, I would agree with that completely. Well, there are radical cases.
Yes.
I think those radical cases tend to be generational,
Mhm.
and that doesn't mean that every 78-year-old agency owner is thinks it's still 1950.
Mm-mm.
No, but they're more likely to, right?
Mhm.
And I've definitely run into. I mean, my friend and mentor. I'm so bad with names. My God, in Iowa, that passed away last year. He was in his 80s. He was still in the agency in his 80s, and great
Oh, wow.
example of somebody whose reputation was a great person to work for, and incredibly forward looking. So it's not every Ted Lucem.
Mm-mm.
It was saying.
Mm-mm.
Uh, uh, it's not that it's only a generational issue, but yes, people from Ted's generation and people from the older edge of the boomer generation, that's the world they grew up in, and they
Mhm.
had to do a lot of changing and growing and keeping up with the times to move on from that. So I think that as many of those retire,
Right.
the next generation running agencies, even if they're still even if they're still 80% men or 70% men or whatever, I'm really hopeful that they will be much better at this, and I'm really hopeful
Yeah.
that reading a book like yours will help them realize the
Right.
mistakes of their predecessors and improve things. So
Right.
yeah, I think it's a long process, and I think that it has to be approached from many different sides, and I'm glad that you've added another piece to this effort that's gonna take us a long time as an industry, and I think we're well into it. I think it's just slower on the agency side because there's so many small agencies, right?
Yeah.
And especially as like yeah, especially small town agencies.
Right. Yeah.
The,
Well, yeah. I mean, the agency side by far is the worst side for sure. And the problem is that a lot of the older generation with the bad habits that aren't going to change, they mentored and trained the next generation that's running the agency to, and then, maybe those people could have come in thinking, I'm going to do things differently. I'm not going to, have that same mindset. But then they're taught they're basically molded to think like them. And so we got to kind of unwire, like, your brain's wired a certain way, kind of like start doing a little bit of unwiring. But also, I interviewed a few people with large companies, like, I don't want to say the names, but large companies, and like I said, their challenges were different, but some of them were like, they would reach that lower management position, couldn't get past the lower management, but they would be asked to train the guys coming in. So that was like a common thing that I kept seeing is, hey, we just hired this guy. You're the best at what you do. I need you to train him so that he can be your manager. Like,
I hope that at the very least, it's usually like, I hope that it's not phrased that way.
no, it is.
I'm not doubting that it happens. It definitely, like we definitely have a glass ceiling, but I am hoping that it's not quite that explicit in most cases.
Yeah.
But it is
In
interesting.
my case, in my case, it was said to me that way. And I had another good friend that it was said to her that way. And she was with a big excess and surplus company, like a national company. And they basically told her, this is I need you to train him. You're the best at what you do so that he can be your boss.
Okay.
And then she kept doing it over and over and over again.
Okay. So as you say, I work on the talent side of the industry. Okay. We're recording in early 2022. We went through COVID. The industry, interestingly, employed more people by the end of 2020 than at the beginning of 2020. So we held through the recession really, really well. And in 2021, the second half of 2021 became a hiring frenzy in our industry, and largely remote. So now the agency space, less so, the carrier space, more so. To the listeners, if you are an experienced insurance professional and you either are hitting the glass ceiling or you're being told to train a guy to be your manager later on, or you think that's what's happening, even if you're not being told that directly, please know there is a ton of work in this industry. Especially if you've been in the same company for a long time, you can probably get a big raise, not even have to move, and move to a company that is more enlightened, and teach them the freaking lesson by doing that, right? I think that a lot of people are loyal to the employers they're with, and yes, that's good. But there should be a limit to loyalty, right? Like the employer gave you an opportunity, and clearly you've paid them back by, hey, you're the best at this particular thing, right? So you've done your part. This is not lifetime employment. This is right. You didn't sign a lifetime contract. In fact, we are all at-will employees in this country. It is not disloyal to move on to a place with a better culture fit. And the more that you do that, the more that great performing women who are the backbone of their departments make moves, and when they leave, they make it clear. I loved it here, but I could not live with having to train somebody to be my boss, and the only difference, right, that my performance is the best in the department. You told me that specifically, but I'm not being able to move forward, apparently because I'm not a man. Like, I am simply not going to put up with that, and the reason I'm leaving, and don't say that until you've accepted the other job. And say it very politely, like in the exit interview, like the reason I'm leaving is, don't go shout it on social media, like tell them internally very politely that that's the reason you left, and over time this should bring change. So yeah, it's a topic that's very close to my heart, and thank you for shining a light on it, and for spending years working on getting this thing to the point where we could put it out into the world. Absolutely. So, awesome. Thank you very much. The book is available on Amazon, or check it out on undiscoveredvoicesinsurance.com. There's some of the early reviews are already there. We'll keep posting them as they come in. Since it just came out, if you read it and it did something for you, send us a review, send it direct to Sarah, send it to me. We'll put it on the website. It'll help other people find it, and also leave it on Amazon too, because we can't do that for you, and that also helps people to discover the book who are maybe not part of our networks yet. So thank you very much. Absolutely. Thank you. Awesome.